Hey, buddy, Jim V here, Navigational Consultant and astrologer. And I had actually done this many years ago when Trump was first elected president. I had posted his astrology chart on Facebook and a few other places. So I want to finally do that here on YouTube. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about his chart. One of the things I like to do as an astrologer is give people insight into famous people. And people in the public eye in terms of their character. I'm not going to be getting into political opinions or points of view. I'm going to just very neutrally describe certain characteristics and things that come through an astrology chart, just because it'll give, again, I think a lot of my followers here some interesting insight into why Trump is wired the way that he is, because that's what our astrology does. It gives us dispositions, and again, why it's so cool to even have your own astrology chart done. And so I've been astrologing for like 40 years. So let's kind of dive in a little bit with just some of the basics of Trump's chart. There's so much to it, but I want to cover a couple of different things. So his birthday is June 14th. And I'm going to check the year, right? That's 1946, right? Okay, that he was born. We are able to get Trump's birth time and location where he was born. So you're able to get a full natal chart in Western astrology. So first thing I would say is one of the things I like to look at as an astrologer is the disposition of fire, air, earth, and water planets in a chart. And so he's pretty even with fire, air, and water. Fire is our enthusiasm or excitement. Air is communication, expression. Water is emotions and feelings. Where he's light is earth. He doesn't have a lot of earth in his chart. So what that usually creates when you have a chart like that is there is a tendency to want to acquire earth attributes. And how do we do that? We do it by working, by acquiring money, by dealing with financial practical matters. That is the most common way that people acquire earth energy, or you could marry it. Earthy types of people as well, too. He's pretty even in cardinal, fixed, immutable disposition, so I'm not going to mention much about that. But one of the big things that we see when we look at anybody's astrology chart, I just kind of call it the three biggies. It's the sun, the moon, and your ascendant or rising sign. Those are the probably most telling things about a person. So let's break that down in the case of Donald Trump. His sun is in Gemini in the 10th house. I'll get to the houses in a little bit. His moon is in Sagittarius in the 4th house. And his rising sign or his ascendant is Leo. Okay, so what does that all mean? Let me give you kind of a great, again, sort of simple formula is every sign has a positive and negative pole. Okay, so the sun is where you get your life force, your vitality, what you strive for in your life. The moon is what we emotionally need to feel satiated and good, and how we, nurture or care in the world. And the rising sign is the way we look physically, the way we act, our basic personality, and the way others also tend to see us as well. So, Gemini, positive pole. Every sign has a positive, negative pole, right? So positive pole of Gemini is I think, which means Geminis tend to analyze, to think, communicate. Everything's about, adaptability in learning and gathering information and ideas. Sometimes the English should say Gemini can sometimes have the diarrhea of the mouth because they often say what they think. Negative pole of Gemini is they scheme. They're too smart for their own good. Sagittarius has its positive pole being I understand. Even if they disagree with someone, they usually have some type of understanding or awareness of why that person may think that way. There's a focus on that. The negative pole of Sagittarius is I exaggerate. And then his rising sign is Leo, ascendant, and positive pole of Leo is I will. This is what I will do. Don't ask me to explain. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to create. This is what I'm willfully going to take care of. And the negative pole of Leo is I pretend, where I write scripts in my mind about how something's going to go, and then when it doesn't go that way, I'm sort of shocked because no one seemed to have gotten the memo. Okay, so give me a simple formula here. So at Donald Trump's best, he is someone who thinks, someone who is understanding, and someone who is willful. At his worst, he would be someone who is scheming, someone who is exaggerating, negative pole of Sagittarius, and the negative pole of Leo is I pretend, again, making stuff up. So, again, you can see why people kind of love him or hate him. He doesn't really create kind of a middle ground. Let me point something else out with Donald Trump's basic chart. His sun is conjunct Uranus in the 10th house of career and status in the world. So, a sun placement in the 10th house is going to very naturally propel someone to have become in the spotlight in some way or want to impact the world stage or have some type of large impact in the world. Uranus represents being eccentric, weird, unique, different, iconoclastic, not following the rules. So conjunction means the planets were in the same sign, and Gemini in this case on top of each other, so to speak, even though physically that's impossible just from viewpoint, from Earth's perspective. And so it means that he is the disruptor. Uranus wants to change the status quo. Uranus wants to shift things and push the buttons. Again, you're either going to be seen as brilliant with that type of a configuration with Uranus, or you're going to be seen as weird and eccentric and strange in some ways. So now you can see some of that particular dynamic. You know, he has an opposition to the Sagittarius moon in his 4th house of home and family. So you can see, like, you know, a Sagittarius moon in the 4th house of home and family would be that he's very idealistic about how families should be. But yet Sagittarius often craves freedom. So even though he has a strong imprint with family, you know, he may wander in some ways in terms of that rootedness or not want to be contained for very long. And they're in opposition to each other. So it means that the family is going to be on the stage in some cases with him. Just very naturally, that's what an opposition does. It creates kind of some tension for obvious reasons, right? And so much more of this, but one last thing I want to mention to keep my video reasonably short for human attention span, even though, again, there's so much more to it, is Donald Trump's rising sign, again, is Leo, which is kind of a showman rising sign, very, very naturally. Many Leos are creative, or artistic, or just, again, showmen or performers at some level. It comes almost sort of natural to them that they shine and bring the spotlight in. But what's interesting about his chart is 2 things. One, he has Mars in Leo on his ascendant, on his rising sign. So that's going to make him very aggressive. He's not going to have any halfway measures. It's going to be very all or nothing. Mars can be seen as a motivator and strong, or Mars can be bombastic and impatient and irritated in some way if people aren't recognizing his status as a big lion cat. You see where, again, some of that's going to come from with him. But also, even that Leo ascendant and Mars in Leo is only part of it at the beginning of his ascendant. He's got a lot of Virgo in his 1st house. And again, 1st house is our house of personality, the way we come across and express ourselves. And so Virgo, positive polar Virgo is I analyze, I study, and the negative is I worry. So what you can see with the Virgo energy there is he can be very critical of things, you know, but he can also be very much a nitpicker in terms of wanting to do things well according to what his perspectives are in that. So you see kind of that blend of that Leo-Virgo energy playing itself out in his 1st house. And one last thing I'll mention is he has Pluto in his 12th house, the house of the unconscious, the subconscious, past lifetimes, you know, what they used to call secret enemies. Pluto is a powerful planet. That means, you know, past life influences would suggest he had power before and he was cooking on that, and he's, you know, that's something that can be brought into the surface again in this lifetime, although he may have abused power in some ways in the past. And typically what we find with Pluto in the 12th house is you just have a very strong impact on people. Again, people are going to really like you or they're not, or sometimes you can create enemies without realizing that you're doing that at the same time. So again, you can kind of see why this man was propelled into the spotlight for obvious reasons, and there's, again, a lot more to it. But I wanted to give you just a little insight. Again, whatever political views you may have, at least you have some understanding of why he is where he is. And anyway, so that's a little intro on Donald Trump. When you're ready to get your own astrology chart looked at, information will be in my comment section here or the link, and you can get hold of me. And so again, love him or hate him, right now this is America's president. Cheers.